everybody? Welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I played the story. I finished the story. There's a lot of extras and post-game stuff and little dungeons and bounties and all collectibles and all kinds of stuff. We're gonna get to all that, but I did not 100% the story or anything like that. I just finished the main campaign. And yeah, obviously this is a video game. I don't usually like try to review a video game, so if you're looking for someone who's gonna do all the technical video game jargon and tell you all the different technical missteps and all that stuff, you might want to go somewhere else. I'm really just here to talk about the story and the lore and how it adds to Star Wars, the franchise. And yeah, just... man, this was amazing. I loved it so much, and I'm gonna say it, I think I liked this even better than the first game. And, you know, on one hand, it's much smaller, it's much more personal than the first game was, story-wise. You know, it's very much, like, self-contained to just maybe 3 or 4 planets total. And there are a couple other locations, but those don't get unlocked until later in the campaign. But for the most part, you're just going through a couple of different planets. You have a much smaller mission in mind. And the Empire itself is not that big of a presence for like the first 2/3 of the game. And so there was a point where I thought we were reaching the end of the story. Because really it just focuses around this planet Kobo and the shattered moon right above it, and how there's this other planet. They said it 10 million times. Talion, whatever. My point is, there's this hidden planet that they discovered in the High Republic, where it is essentially covered by this storm, this substance, whatever this is. It's covered by stuff, and you can't really get to it unless you find these special compasses, or if you hit it with these special array beams that like literally go from planet to planet and shoot at it to create a little tunnel that your ship can fly through. And really the entire goal of the game for most part is to get to this planet, and it's going to be this new safe haven for people following the path. Now, yes, it's the same path that we saw in the Kenobi show. That's the one where they were on Jabeam and they had all these people, because it's this underground network of you know, people on the run from the Empire. You know, it's Force wielders, it's Jedi survivors, it's anyone that the Empire's after. They go through this whole system. Now, this is where we have Seer, who's on Jeddah currently, and that is where, you know, they're doing their little base of the path through them. And basically the idea is to get them to this hidden planet where, hey, everyone who's on the run, you can come here. Now, interestingly enough, we know that doesn't necessarily end up happening, so, you know, what's going on there after this, I don't know yet, obviously. But anyways, yeah, it's pretty cool. We have a Kenobi connection there. Now, yes, I was kind of hoping that someone would mention maybe the name of one of those characters from the Kenobi show. You know, there were several characters who were like the main members of the path, who were like, you know, helping get people from A to B, but they didn't mention anything like that. It's unclear if this game takes place right before or right after the Kenobi show, obviously, because, you know, it's a different section of the path. But they like, hey, you guys had a Jedi, you had a run-in with Darth Vader, you had like all this stuff happen. I don't know if maybe that happened after this, I don't know. But you know, it is cool to at least have that connection of like, yes, at this point in time, you know, specifically 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, we have you know, we have the path that is actually happening. Now, Cal himself, he doesn't get involved in this until later, because apparently for the last 5 years he has been working jobs with Saw Gerrera, who we don't actually see in this game itself. But, you know, he's running jobs with Saw Gerrera. His entire crew at the beginning of the game gets killed, except for one member, Bode, who is like the new guy, but he seems just like the nicest dude ever, right? Like, he's super cool, he's got a jetpack, you know, really useful when you're trying to traverse these different planets with platforms you can't reach. And then Bode just flies up there and he drops down a rope, and there you go, now you can get by, you know? So like, okay, pretty cool to have a companion going along these adventures. we'll get back to Bode. So the main villain for the first 2/3 of the game, and I keep on repeating that because like this game takes a twist for the third act, and I did not see it coming, and I was so happy that it happened. The main villain is this Jedi that you awake from the High Republic, as you saw in the trailers. He's been sitting in this Bacta tank for 200 years. I guess you can survive, or maybe he's just an alien, so maybe that's why he survived. I don't know. But you know, you can just sit in a Bacta tank for 200 years, and he wakes up, and basically it turns out that he's the one who discovered Tanalorr. That's the name of the planet. He discovered Tanalorr, and the Jedi Order had established a temple there, but then they ran away once the Nil attacked it. The Nil, of course, if you've read the High Republic, you know that the Nil are like the whole these marauders, these raiders who are causing all kinds of problems in those books. The good thing, of course, is that you do not have to have read the books to understand anything going on during the High Republic in this game. You know, like they'll make small allusions to the Nil and stuff like that, but like for the most part, you can just play this game and they give you all the context you need, because none of these characters are from the books. So this Dagon guy, the guy you awake, he's not from the books or anything. So you know, this is entirely new stuff for this game, so that is the good news, if you're worried about that. Now, he's the main bad guy for the most part, and he's got like this second in command lieutenant guy who's I forget the species name. It is the same species that you saw in the 2D's Clone Wars, the Tartakovsky Clone Wars. I forget his name, but he's like that really weird tentacled bounty hunter who's like, you can tear him to pieces, but his tentacle pieces all come back together, so they're like invincible and really hard to kill. So you got to take him on, you got to take the High Republic Jedi on, and it's like this whole journey trying to stop them from getting to this planet, because they're going to use it as a base of operations for their Bedlam Raiders, this army that they've been brewing. And some of them even got lightsabers, but I don't think any of the Raiders have the Force, so I don't know what his plan was exactly. He didn't seem to have access to any of the Force users, so I guess he was just going to have really cool Raider guys. I guess that was his plan, to have an army of them. Anyways, so of course you end up stopping him, and you end up getting to Tanalorr once you stop both his second in command, and you kill the High Republic Jedi, and it's like this whole thing. And then we get to the big twist. And this is where I feel like the game, you know, at this point, I thought the game was kind of wrapping up, right? I figured, okay, there's going to be like a little epilogue, and then that's pretty much going to be it, right? Like the story's over. And I'm like, okay, they go to Tanalorr, they defeated this evil Jedi, and that was it. That was going to be like the whole story. And I would have been satisfied with that, but it would have felt really, really small, right? Because like I said, the Empire up to that point has been very little involved at all. And so we go back to Jedha, and we fix the compass that we got from Dagon, the High Republic Jedi guy. And this big twist happens. Bode, the guy who's so friendly and so nice, and he ends up betraying you. He kills Master Cordova, who, by the way, I don't know if it was established that Cordova was alive, because in the first game, you only see Cordova from, old holo messages that he left inside BD, right? So I don't know if it was ever established that he was alive and I just missed it. But yeah, in this game, he just shows up on Jedha with Seer, and I'm like, oh, all right. And they're not even like addressing it like it's a surprise that he's alive. Everyone's just like, oh, it's an honor to meet you. I'm like, oh, I had assumed he was dead this whole time, but I guess everyone else knew he was alive at least. All right, whatever. Anyways, so Bode kills Cordova, right? The guy that we just got back, and I thought was already dead when this game started, but I guess not. Anyways, Bode kills him, and then he had called in the Empire, so now they're attacking this base of the Hidden Path. And we also have people called, I think they're called the Seekers, or the Skiers, and they're hooded people that also work with the Hidden Path and Seer and all that. In any case, the Empire is attacking. Cal goes after Bode because he's just stolen the compass back, so he's on the run. And then you play as Seer for a little while, and you fight off all the Empire. And seemingly simultaneously, you have Cal is confronting Bode, who we find out can use the Force and has a lightsaber. So we've killed the High Republic Jedi, the guy that I thought was like the main threat, and now we're introducing Bode as this big twist reveal villain who has a red lightsaber already and uses the Force. And you know, we get it explained that he was undercover during the Clone Wars. You know, he was somehow in the whatever the version of the ISB was when the Republic was still around, I guess. And basically he just remained undercover, and he made a deal with whoever this captain lieutenant guy was of that base. Basically, like, as long as he goes out and does jobs for him, he'll keep him and his daughter safe. And so that's why he's working for the Empire, but he's not an Inquisitor. He's not even necessarily known to be a thing to Darth Vader and all that. But he is known to this one Imperial guy. So it was an interesting, like, secret Imperial spy guy for the ISB. And then simultaneously you play as Seer, as she's protecting the base on Jeddah, and of course who walks through the door? Darth goddamn Vader, right? So all of a sudden, what I thought was going to be just a small epilogue, or maybe just like a cliffhanger for the next game, it's like, oh no, there's so much going on. Bode is a Jedi, Darth Vader shows up, and you get this really epic fight. And Seer, to be fair, Seer holds her own for a while, right? Like she gets quite a few good hits in on Vader, but of course Darth Vader ends up winning the day. He kills Seer. Seer is dead. Cordova is dead. And it's really like the low point before our final act here, right? So yeah, I was totally wrong in reading, like, you know, the the pace of the story, because I thought we were wrapping up, and it's like, oh no, there's a whole third act coming. And so we have Cal go to the ISB, where he's managed to track Bode to, and we meet his daughter, and he has to sneak around this Imperial base, and he even touches the dark side a couple times, so he gets kind of scary, because, like, of course you would, right? Like, Seer just died, Cordova just died, the hidden path and their base on Jeddah and everything that was really cool that you had going on, it's all ruined now, right? So it's like, yeah, you hate this guy, you're really mad. And basically you end up chasing him out of there, and he leaves, and you have to escape this ISB place. And essentially you just align the arrays. He leaves with the compass, so he's already at Tanalorr, this paradise, and it's just him and his daughter, and that's basically his whole plan. It's just that he's gonna be there. And so Cal has to go back to Kobo, align the arrays, fly their ship through this big tunnel, and it's just a really fun sequence of them, like, trying to, like, fly through this whole thing. It very much reminds me of Exegol, how Exegol, you had to have the wayfinders in order to get to it, and you know, you saw Kylo Ren, like, flying through the red stuff, whatever it is, the stuff, you know, the stuff that makes the planet hard to get to. It's a very similar concept to that. Anyway, so they're flying through it, and they get to Tanalorr, and they have a big confrontation with Bode, who he does not leave them any choice. There's no gray area here. Bode was going to keep on fighting. He has several chances to surrender and give up. Cal ends up having to kill Bode, and they take in his daughter, and his, you know, hey, his daughter's real mature about this whole thing, because his daughter's like, oh yeah, my dad was changing, and he got really dark after mom died, and you know, like, I was like, oh, okay, she's being really understanding about this. So that's good, because in any other case, I would be like, did we just create another villain in this kid? Like, is this, you know, like a decade from now, is this kid gonna end up being the big bad guy now because we just killed her dad? That doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, the more implication is that, you know, Cal, you know, they like burn their bodies real respectful, like they give them the Jedi funeral for all three of them, even Bode, right? And so Cal hears Seer saying something like, you know, show her the path or something. So I guess the idea is that Cal might take on this girl as his Padawan. You know, that seems to be the implication that I got. And basically we're left with the good guys now have Tanalorr, and I suppose they're going to try to set up the hidden path here on Tanalorr, and you know, this might end up being the place where everyone gets sent to. So in the Kenobi show, we saw that oh my gosh, what is his name? I can't remember his name now. The you know, the Jedi with the yellow stripe across his face. We saw that he was there, and we didn't see him, but we saw his writing on that wall that he was part of the path. So this might end up being where we see a lot of people in the future, in the next installment, which I imagine will be like the last entry in this. And the thing about it all is that, you know, we're left in this place where we know what happens after this, right? Like, we know Rebels happens, and then obviously the original trilogy happens, and there's no mention of Cal or any of these, you know, this whole system here. But I guess this is one way where they can kind of explain away why we don't see any of these people, and why none of this is ever mentioned is because, well, the hidden path was a secret, and Tanalorr is a place that you can't really get to unless you know very specifically how to do it, right? So it's safe from the Empire, and, you know, if they, I guess they don't end up joining the rebellion whenever that eventually forms, you know, it seems like, all right, this is going to be like a safe place where they can all just chill out, right? So on one hand, it's like, okay, so they don't do anything during the actual, like, the rebellion has formed and there's an alliance, and, you know, Cal's just nowhere to be seen. So but that's kind of the case for everything, right? Like, in Rebels, they had to find a way to get rid of Ezra. So, like, oh, he got zapped away by space whales and he's gone, right? And he doesn't come back until, you know, the Ahsoka show, right? So, like, years later, he's just gone, and this is how we explain him not being there. So it's going to be probably a similar idea with Cal. It's like, oh, well, he was on Tanalorr and he was, you know, keeping people safe there, so he couldn't be part of the rebellion, or you know, something like that. I'm sure they'll come up with a reason. So I am wondering if there's going to be another time skip in the next game, because, you know, if I'm thinking about my Star Wars years correctly, we have about 9 years before A New Hope starts, so they can skip a whole 9 years and, you know, age Cal up even more. Because I mean, they did a 5-year skip this time, so I don't see why they couldn't do that. So that is one thing. But yeah, anyways, overall, I really enjoyed this. I feel like the third act twist, the, you know, like this whole, like, oh, Bo betrayed them, and he's a Jedi, and you have to fight Darth Vader, and Cal is addressing his dark side, he's touching the darkness, you know, like all of that stuff happening in the third act of this game really made it go from, like, a game where I was like, okay, this is pretty cool, to like, oh shit, no, this is great, this is actually amazing, you know. Like, it really elevated the story for me that all that stuff happened, because I was so convinced it was wrapping up after we beat the High Republic Jedi, because obviously all the marketing was like, this is the main bad guy. So once he's gone, I was like, all right, I guess that's it. But nope, there's a whole other section after this. So yeah, man, I really love this. I love that it feels like they blended in the High Republic stuff so well with the Imperial era stuff. You know, and it's just because, you know, you think about, like, 200 years, it's like, sure, that was a long time ago for us, but, like, you think about how many alien species in Star Wars can live that long, and how many, you know, droids have definitely been around that long. Like, you even meet what's her name, Z, in this game, right? Like, 200 years to them, it's like, oh, it's old for humans, I guess, but, like, you know, there's probably so many people in the galaxy of like, oh yeah, I remember that, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so, like, they did a good job of, like, kind of blending the eras here, and it worked really well. You know, again, I'm not here to talk about video game technical problems. I think my game did crash one time, and there were a couple of kind of funny glitches where, like, oh, instead of falling to my death in the middle of the air, I was, like, walking on the air as if there were a platform there. So, you know, there's, like, a couple of funny technical issues like that, but I didn't have as many as a lot of people seem to have. Like, a lot of other people were complaining about, like, major problems. I didn't really have that. But yeah, just overall, I had a great experience here. I feel like more than anything, what they were trying to concentrate on in this game was customization, you know, not because in the first game, of course, you could do your lightsaber and you could do your ship, but this one, it's like everything about Cal, everything about BD1, and then, you know, you have, like, the garden at the bar, and then you have even the music there, and then even the way that you play, like, you have this whole perk system that kind of, like, helps your play style a little bit differently. And of course you have all your different stances that you can like, whichever preference you have of stances. So like customization and like really making this your version of the game definitely seemed to be like a high priority here, and I think it worked out really well. I will say I didn't really play around with the perks at all. Like I think I unlocked a couple and then I just left those on the whole game, but it didn't seem to affect anything as far as I'm concerned. Like I thought it was fine. I think it was like resistance or something and something else. So yeah, I don't know. Some people are gonna really get into all these little systems, but I don't think it's necessary. So like, if it intimidates you to be like, oh god, there's a perk system and there's all this other stuff going on, all these other stances, honestly, you can use single blade and not even touch the perks, and I think you'll be fine. So it's not like a requirement that you participate in all this stuff. And yeah, just story wise, like, I already liked the characters from the first game, but I really feel like this game like cemented their place for me in like the galaxy. Like I feel like, okay, this is really like, as much as the Rebels crew, as much as the Bad Batch, like this is a crew, this is a family that represents this time in the Star Wars universe. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do next. Obviously it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 years before we see anything, but I know they came out with that book that was like an in-between book, but hopefully they keep on coming out with more stuff, because I would love to see these characters in more things, or at least mentioned vaguely. Like I said, the Kenobi show, they had somewhat of a connection, but I kind of wish there was a little bit more, especially because I have to imagine like that show and this game were, I don't know how their productions lined up, but like I have to imagine that story wise, they kind of talk to each other a little bit through Lucasfilm, saying like, hey, the Kenobi show has this thing going on where there's like a hidden underground railroad path thing, like, so I have to imagine some of that got integrated, and obviously the High Republic elements, but just, yeah, overall, like, I'm definitely gonna go back and I'm gonna play a lot of the bounties and go find all the little extra secrets I can. And this is definitely a game where it's like, even after the campaign is done, you go back and you just live in the world. And then of course there's New Game Plus, which I'll go try that out. But yeah, just it was a really great time. I think I liked it even better than the first game. I will say this, I think the one thing that the first game has on this one is that the number of planets you go to seemed not necessarily more, but it's just that like during the campaign you visit each one at a more consistent rate, whereas in this game it seemed like you went back and forth between like 2 planets over and over and over and over again. So you get tired of Kobo after a while, because you're like, okay, we're going back to Kobo again. And I get it, like that's like the biggest planet that they made for this game, and it's supposed to be like your home world. But I don't know, it did kind of make me feel like, I miss Dathomir, I miss Kashyyyk, like I'm starting to miss some of these other places. Having said that, I don't think I ever once went back to Coruscant, so I need to go do that. At least I need to go back to Coruscant and see what kind of areas I can now go to that I couldn't before, because I didn't have whatever jump mechanic or dash, so yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that I still gotta do game wise, but the story, it was great, it was wonderful. Just yeah, I was left very satisfied by the stakes by the end, because especially how much they were able to like throw me for a loop with that with that surprise third act, because I was so convinced that we were starting to wrap things up, and then it's like, surprise, Darth Vader is here now. Things suddenly get more intense when you can just throw Darth Vader in there. It's like, okay, this is serious now. This is not just a small epilogue. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about Jedi Survivor, about the story, about the gameplay. Did you have technical issues? What did your Cal Kestis look like for most of the game? Mine, you know, I think after every major story beat, I tried to put on different clothes and change the haircut a little bit. I think I ended up with like a sort of Jedi hair bun type of thing with a beard, because it just felt very Jedi-like. And I did have the robes on for a little bit, but then I changed to one. There's like one with like a cape, which it kind of matched the whole, you know, Jedi journeyman type thing that's happening here. So anyways, yeah, let me know what you guys think about the game and how you feel about everything that happened. Did it did it break your heart to have to kill Bode, and now you just, I guess you just have this probably Padawan, I guess. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about everything, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.